Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today we are going to be going through the latest version 2.6 4-piece relic sets that were reviewed in the version 2.6 livestream, Sacredos, Relieved, Ordeal, as well as the Scholar Lost in Erudition. Right, the first set is going to be meant for our hyper carry support, and the second set is going to be our brand new skill damage set. Right now, with the help of the creator experience server, we can finally go around and see the testings, their impact for each of our different units, as well as is it going to be worth your stamina to farm for these brand new relic sets. For the sake of convenience, I'll be labeling the first relic set as the Sacredos set and the second set as the Scholar set, right? So without further ado, let's get into today's content. Before actually going into the set itself, I just kind of want to bring your attention to the design of these relic sets. So for Sacredos, it is very clear that it is meant for Sunday, right? It is quite literally his coat, his shoes, his... It is almost as if Miho just said, you know what, Sunday, take off your shit, you are now the brand new 4-piece. But luckily for us, unlike Duke Inferno, he is going to be a summonable unit, right? So very nicely designed over here. And then for the Scholar Lost in Erudition set, it doesn't really remind me of any unit that we have seen so far in Honkai Star Rail, because none of these really have the similar drip. But if anything, it kind of hints to me, or at least this is going to be my personal opinion, we might be seeing someone using this coming from the Genius Society, right? Because first of all, Scholar, so I made the parallel over there with Genius, and it kind of also reminds me of like a male version of the adult Herta we have seen from the live stream. You can see the Herta all grown up, wearing it kind of reminiscent of like Rani the Witch if you guys play Elden Ring. So this kind of reminds me of the male version, so I wouldn't be too surprised if in the future this is going to be meant for a unit that can make use of a very similar design, right? So that is going to be that for the design portion. Definitely holding very good future potential. But let's just jump straight into our very first set, Sacredos. 2-piece increase speed by 6%, and 4-piece when using skill or ultimate on one allied target, increase their crit damage by 18% for 2 turns, stacking up to 2 times. So for the longest time we have been playing in Honkai Starbucks, our harmony supports, or in fact pretty much almost every single one of our supports, like such as our debuffers, we didn't really have a lot of very good 4-piece options, right? Most of us, we are going to be running their 4-piece ego set to get our 25% action value advance, or we can just run a 2-piece messenger for the 2% speed and just run rainbow sets just to make the speed requirements, right? Not a lot of people really locked into the 4-piece messenger bonus because the speed is only for a single turn, and most of the time you don't really play around the messenger speed buff, and even if you do, it is basically just 2 speed subs for stats, so it's really not that worth it, and most of the time players are going for the 2-piece messenger instead of the 4-piece messenger. But that has all changed with the introduction of 4-piece Sacredos. So this 4-piece Sacredos, in my opinion, it is probably gonna be pretty much best in slot for almost every single one of our hyper carry supports, allowing them to have a 36% crit damage buff to our main carry, which from a relic subset perspective, it's gonna be worth a lot more than a 12% speed buff for 1 turn. Not to mention, it is going to be a raw damage increase instead of just a speed, which technically speaking, if you don't play around the speed thresholds in Honkai Star Rail, you're not really going to be able to see a lot of the value from speed. Whereas for raw damage buff, pretty much any player, casuals, free play, even zero cyclos, sweaty meta players, you can see solid incremental values, right? Another thing to note is that these bonuses can actually be stacked from multiple sources. So for example, if you are going to be equipping both Sparkle and Ting Yun, the main target can receive up to a 72% crit damage buff if they are both having these 4-piece Sacredos. So the way this set works is the wearer has to use a skill or the ultimate and only target one ally. So someone like Ranmei or Robin, they cannot activate the 4-piece whatsoever, right? Because their skill and ultimate, it is targeting to an entire team, right? It is not really designated for a single target. So the obvious users are namely going to be Bronya, Sparkle, Ting Yun, and even Hanya. Keep in mind that Sparkle and Bronya's ultimate, they cannot activate the 4-piece because the ultimate is not applied to a single ally, it is applied to an entire team, right? But because Bronya and Sparkle, they are pretty much always gonna be spamming their skill almost on every single turn, you can still get a very good uptime, pretty much 100%, and get the max 2 stacks permanently, right? So not too big of a problem over there. If you want to compare this parallel for the 4-piece Sacredos to, for example, like 4-piece Eagle or even the 2-piece Messenger with a 2-piece whatever, there is an argument that if you are doing for 0 cycles, you might be getting more value from the 25% action value advance from 4-piece Eagle, because 25% action value advance, if you were to use the ultimate more enough, it more or less can give your units an extra turn. An extra turn entails with not only more damage, more energy, more chance to get out, more chance to apply debuffs. So this is really going to be dependent if you really value this 25% action value from equal 4-piece. But if you just want to get a raw 36% crit damage buff, not to mention the 2-piece speed buff, then this 4-piece Sacredos is gonna be, in my opinion, gonna be an extremely comfortable 4-piece for general use cases, for the casuals, for beginners, for anyone that just wants to go ahead and get about their day done. And with the most obvious use cases out of the way, I kind of want to highlight some certain niche characters that can also make use of 4-piece Sacredos, even if they are not supports. So one example, most abundance characters also have an ability that targets our own ally, such as our Gallagher, our lower chart. So we can technically buff our other units with this crit damage buff as well. But keep in mind, the skill and ultimate, like I mentioned, they can only target a single ally. So unfortunately, because her skill targets 3 different targets and the ultimate is for her entire team, she can unfortunately not use this 4-piece Sacredos. So generally speaking, as long as you have an abundant sustain that can in fact target a single target, then it is possible to use this skill. And currently right now, it is mainly going to be Lynx. Lynx is pretty much the only sustain that can consistently use this skill and apply this buff to our target with a very good uptime. We also have a potential use for Sacredos for even DPS units. So remember that the activation condition is gonna be using our skill or ultimate on one target. This includes themselves. So if there are any units that you have that can actually use a skill or ultimate and it applies to their own buff, then you can actually mark this buff to the own DPS. So an excellent example is going to be Qingque. Every single time you use Qingque skill, it is considered as a buff to herself. Another example is going to be Clara and Yunli's ultimates, which can be considered self-buffs, right? So if you guys do get yourselves a very good crit value from farming this 4-piece, consider Qingque, Clara, and Yunli when you want to use this 4-piece. Keep in mind for Yunli, 4-piece Valerius is going to be pretty much a best in slot, so it might not be that big of an upgrade if there's any upgrade. And then for Clara set, however, it is actually a pretty considerable upgrade because the 4-piece champion set is just very inefficient to farm, and the effects of 4-piece champion is also not that great. So 4-piece Sacredos can be quite impactful for Clara, especially considering she's also a very slow unit, so you wouldn't see Clara wasting the buff very quickly. So aside from this 4-piece effect, general usage, the 2-piece speed buff can also be very nice. So now you can get a 2-piece speed from both Hackerspace as well as Sacredos. So now you can essentially get this 12% speed buff. So the ability supports like Pella, Jiaoqiu, you can just give them as much speed as humanly possible. So that is gonna be that for our 4-piece Sacredos. And now moving on to our 4-piece Scholar set, increasing crit by 8% for our 2-piece and increase damage dealt by skill and ultimate by 20%. After using ultimate, additionally increase the damage dealt by the next skill by 25%. So you essentially get a permanent 8% crit rate, 20% skill, and 20% ultimate damage with an additional 25% skill damage bonus. So this set will basically benefit the characters that will be dealing damage with their skill and ultimates, with the caveat that this additional 4-piece will benefit skill damage users more. And the recipient that's gonna be one of the best beneficiaries is gonna be none other than our Ice Queen Jingliu, right? Because she does have very high focus on not only her ultimate damage but also from an enhanced skill. But that being said, Jingliu does have a pretty high ultimate cost of 140, so this additional 25% skill damage will not have a very high uptime compared to units that can use their ultimates very frequently. So as of now, considering the upgrade between either 4-piece Quantum or 4-piece Ice, and if you do have a signature like Cone or you're running her with Pella, then 4-piece Quantum is going to be the best in slot. Then this 4-piece Scholar is not going to be a definitive increase in terms of upgrade, unless there's a way that we can somehow increase Jingliu's ultimate uptime, either through getting hit or through Adventure's mechanics, or even through like Huan's ultimate or any other means to improve her ultimate uptime, right? Another unit that can be an excellent recipient is going to be Scylla. So Scylla nowadays is going to be almost always running the 4-piece Quantum. It has been a set that has been farming since 1.0, but for players that have not farmed for 4-piece Quantum and you are still going to be using Scylla, then this is going to be a pretty nice alternative and sometimes even considered as an upgrade, especially if you don't run Scylla with defense debuffers such as Silverwolf or Pella, right? situations, you might run Scylla with like Ting Yun, Robin, or Sparkle, any of these above, right? So in this scenario, because Scylla, she also relies a lot on her skill and ultimate damage to defeat the enemies, then this 4-piece Scholar set would be a very good alternative for Scylla. Not to mention, the efficiency of farming for the 4-piece Scholar with the 4-piece Sacredos as the alternative set is going to be way more efficient compared to farming for 4-piece Quantum, which is going to be basically at 50% efficiency because basically no one ever uses the Watering Guard set, right? Now, aside from these skill damage focused units, then other 4-star units such as Win Dunhane, Arlen, or even Yanqing, Shu Shang, or even Herda, which does have a pretty high mix of both skill and ultimate damage, they can also be very nice recipients for this brand new 4-piece Scholar. Another unit that you guys might be thinking of is probably going to be Fei Xiao, because Fei Xiao also does considerable ultimate damage, but unfortunately, Fei Xiao is going to be performing much better with the 4-piece Valerius, and her personal skill really just does almost no damage because majority of it is either gonna be from the ultimate and the rest of us is gonna be from the talent, right? So Fei Xiao is not gonna be that beneficial for this brand new 4-piece. Before we kind of move on, there's gonna be one last character that may perhaps be one of, if not the best 4-piece upgrade compared to his previous piece, Argenti. This is not really because Argenti gets the full benefit from this set specifically, because Argenti's skill doesn't really do that much damage. Most of it is going to be coming from his maximum energy ultimate. But that being said, Argenti's previous best in 4-piece was more or less going to be the 4-piece champion or the 4-piece Valerius. So for Argenti, this is going to be a pretty nice upgrade specifically for pure friction, because in pure friction, you do need quite a bit of skill damage to deal with the mobs, and you can actually spam Argenti's ultimate every single wave instead of waiting for the enhanced ultimate, right? On this similar note with Argenti, Acheron can also be another unit that can benefit quite a bit because she does need quite a bit of crit rate. Having the ultimate damage increase is going to be quite significant because majority of Acheron's damage is going to be coming from the ultimate, right? Especially for players that actually got a E6 Acheron, that's when your skill actually do a lot of damage as well. You can consider this as a pretty nice upgrade considering how quickly can we spam Acheron's ultimate, usually like a 1-turn ultimate. However, that being said, Acheron still has much higher value if you just give her the 4-piece debuffer, so it is not going to be an upgrade. But if players are still struggling to get a good 4-piece debuffer for Acheron, then getting good crit values here, you can give it to Acheron if you decide to stop farming for the 4-piece debuffer set, right? So that's going to be that. So that's going to be that for our 4-piece option, and then for our 2-piece option, it is going to be our first ever 2-piece 8% crit rate. So if you are going to be running any forms of like Rainbow because you're just trying to get the best possible crit value, then getting this 2-piece crit rate is basically translating to 16 crit value, which can be very helpful for a lot of players if you're struggling to build a good enough Rainbow set for your DPS units, right? So for 2-piece crit, you can run with a 2-piece Valerius, 2-piece Musketeer, 2-piece Prisoner because they all have attack. Any of these can work, or simply just run a 2-piece crit by itself with any of the 2 Rainbow pieces. So that is going to be our overall summary for both the Sacredos as well as the Scholar set. In my opinion, I believe that these brand new relic sets, they are not gonna be like a relic set that changes everything, because it is not specifically like a extremely powerful upgrade compared to our older options. So for our support set, the Sacredos, you can use the 4-piece Eagle, or you can just stick to your 2-piece Messenger with the random 2-piece relics to get as much speed as possible. And then for our DPS sets, a lot of our DPS nowadays, we do have quite a lot of best in slot sets. For Acheron, the debuffer sets, for Fei Xiao, the Valerius, for the follow-up sets, the printers, the DOT set. So a lot of our DPSs don't really specifically benefit that much from the Scholar as well. And not to mention, the main recipients for this 4-piece Scholar, they are kind of units that are not really in the best meta right now because of Qinglu and Scylla, compared to units like Fei Xiao, Acheron, Firefly, Super Rig. So they're not really gonna be in the flavor of the month, if I can say it to myself, right? Alright, so now we've come to the final topic, which is gonna be, are these 2 relics gonna be worth your stamina? Is it gonna be worth farming for them, especially if you're gonna be coming to Honkai Star Rail, even as a new or an old player? So in my opinion, if you're gonna be a new player in Honkai Star Rail and you just started playing this game recently with like the previous batch, Robin's batch, or even Rare Pass batch, then I think this is gonna be a very nice generalized relic set. Not specifically because of the 4-piece, because the 4-piece can be pretty niche, but for the 2-piece. 2-piece speed and 2-piece crit rate, they are very universal and good to have stats for pretty much any of your DPS, for any of your supports, for any of your sustain. So very nice sets for players to sink their stamina in, especially if you don't really have a good foundation of relics, right? For the old players, or for players who are whales, who have max refresh, you pretty much already have best in slot sets for like almost 90% of your characters, then you might not find a lot of value farming for the new set, because for most situations, they are not gonna be a upgrade if you have a very well developed old set you have farmed, right? That is gonna be my opinion if you should be spending your stamina in this domain. With that, we have come to the end of this video. Pretty quick, pretty summarized. Just kind of show you guys what is the comparison over here. The word of the day is gonna be genius. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, join TikTok, and join Twitter. All the best for your gacha pools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.